gentlemen, without further ado, today we have great representation from the city of Brownsville, as mentioned, but we're going to start our conversation with our outstanding city manager, Ms. Helen Ramirez. We're also going to have Joel Garza and, of course, Doroteo Garcia join us for the conversation. Today, we are talking about special edition roads, something that matters and is very important. And I do challenge you to ask the questions. There is no right or wrong question. All inquiries are of great importance to us. The city is listening to you, but we need to talk and we need to be loud with our message as well. So, damas y caballeros, help me welcome Helen Ramirez.
Esme, just for all of your leadership, and I think this is my favorite time to be with you all and be together. What we know is, while our projections are a little bit over 2% a year in population growth, we're really headed at the 3%. I think when you talked in 2019, SpaceX was at 500 employees. It's now at 4,300. Believe it or not, Rose. Our LNGs, they're expect to hit probably 10,000 by the end of the year, and all these people need places to live, work, play, congregate. Yeah. And so how are we, when we talk about the cities that you visited or I lived in Los Angeles, grew up there, is all the time we spend on those roads, and it's really wasted time that we are not being productive, time that we are not with our families, time that we're stressed trying to get to an event that maybe our child has. We want to create I have the benefit of living 8 minutes between my home and my child's school, and then another 8 minutes between my child's school and my place of work, which is downtown Brownsville. And so that 15-minute or no more than 20-minute drive really makes me have a great quality of life. If you need to go somewhere in an emergency, you can really get there. But cities in general throughout the United States have had a very difficult time keeping up with the need for maintenance and growth. So when we think of growth, we think of also our long-term transportation plan, or what we call mobility plan. And throughout that mobility plan, what we found is, as you can see, there was an infamous pothole that we finally took care of. Let me just tell you, I'm going to just say it out there, right? And that's not even city property. It was a private property that we cited, right? Because their private property owners are supposed to maintain their own private driveways. However, we did notice that it was started getting, even though we had told them to fix it and we've asked them to fix it, we noticed that it was just getting bigger and bigger. That presented a problem to our utility lines. And so what we don't want is it gets bigger and bigger and then compromises the lines. And so we felt it was necessary to fix that. But really, private development needs to help. And that means not pay for 100%, because even in the state of Texas, you can't require private industry to pay for 100% everything, nor they should. It should be, the state of Texas allows it to be 50-50, 50 private, 50 public. However, even 50% sometimes with impact fees can be too high and can negatively affect development. So what we've said is, let's start off really small. And so the capital recovery fee is like a traffic impact fee for new capacity. So the city still has to fix maintenance. Okay, this is beyond. This is if there's growth and I'm putting in 300 housing units, what is my impact to that road that takes me to the housing development or that intersection? Or if we're going to get a major shopping center, right, a Costco or something, how many vehicles are going to be going to Costco or that big department store that will affect the intersection that they have to pass through? So so if we do need a new traffic light or what have you, the way we were capturing some of that money is only 10% of their impact, not 50% what the state of Texas allows us, but 10%, because we understand that there's a lot of different types of fees involved with new construction. We want to still be able to be competitive in that sense. So it's a one-time fee, so it's not recurring. So if you think about cities, is all our roads, once they're ours, the city handles the ongoing maintenance of those roads, right? right? So this impact fee is a one-time fee that is charged to development after they've already kind of built it, right? So it's a great tool in the toolbox for cities. It is not the end all, because I said it's only 10% of 100% of a street light. So if a street light costs us like $200,000, it's only 10% of $200,000. The city still has to come up with the additional $180,000. When we pass the fee, we believe that whenever we're going to, whether it's a new fee or anything, that there has to be lots of community engagement. We really believe in transparency, and we had a year and a half of really talking to our developers, talking to our residents. You know, what do we feel is equitable, right? And so there was a lot of give and take. There was also many of our community members, rightly so, felt that there should be exemptions for affordable housing. So in order to affordable housing, it's already difficult to build that. So let's not put another impact fee on affordable housing. So there are certain areas in the city, and we'll go through that'll be exempt. Downtown Brownsville will be exempt from the fee. Why? Because we really want, it's the heart of our city, and we really want to encourage people to continue to drive that renaissance in downtown. So it's a way of incentivizing continued vertical growth in downtown. So we're going to go through a lot of questions that you may have. We also gave a year of kind of like, get to know the fee. So we haven't charged the fee for a year, just to make sure that we're ready, that our developers are ready, and that, it's a transition, right? It's something new for our city. But I think one of the things I remember hearing a lot from, whether it's basic employees or our employees, is the need for better traffic synchronization, right? Who wants to hit Boca Chica and keep going, right? And not necessarily stop every street light. Well, there's been a lot of improvements, but in 2019 or 2020, the Rio Grande Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is the RGV MPO, the big regional MPO, showed us to be the city with least synchronization in the RGV. So we're in 2019, we're the largest city with how many streetlights do we have? Like 300 streetlights, and really less than 10% of our streetlights had been synchronized in 2019. So the city started putting, it's a $7 million price tag to get us where we need to be. So the city started putting $1 million here, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, and so we're up to, and then also asking the RGVMPO for money, right? So we're probably at allocated about $3 million in traffic synchronization. And so you can see those changes on certain streets where you're hitting the green lights quickly, but there's never enough, right? So, if we have improved up to 40% of our lights, we still have the 60% others that we need to improve. So, those are, when we talk about the price tag, it's not only the price tag of new construction, it's also the price tag of traffic synchronization to get us there quicker and faster and cheaper, because it costs us less to synchronize than to keep building and acquiring right away. Why is it important, right? We have this talks about our growth rate, and as you can see, we're looking at about 2%. Maybe in 2033, we're looking at a population of about 250,000. I think we'll exceed that. Right now, we're the 18th largest city in the state of Texas, just so you know. So we're in the top 20. And really, what's different from Brownsville than maybe McAllen is that they're almost a built-out community, which means that they've already kind of built out to their boundaries. We're less than 50% built out. Not to say that we're going to build out everything. There should be areas of preservation. However, if you see this, it takes us all the way, to the Gulf, to where Port Isabel is, and Laguna Vista. So our tentacles extend all the way to the Gulf. And that's the reality. And so when we look at the second causeway that the state is looking at, some of our growth area will hit where the second causeway is planned to be. So what will that do for development out here, right? And so what we want to do is continue to make it safe to get to our new subdivisions. And also when we look at complete streets, we think of not only for roads, but for bikes, for pedestrians, and for our school kids. So when we look at and transit, because we are the largest, I love to brag on transit. It's about 1.3 million people we serve in transit, including UTRGV students, BISD students, our students that cross Matamoros and go to our public schools, right? Because we're like a seamless city with Matamoros as well. So there's a 1.3, we're the largest transit provider in the RGV. And so how does that whole, I love it, how do we connect? How do we serve all those different modes of transportation, including space? Because at one point, there may be people launching from the launch pads of Starbase, city of Starbase, to the moon and Mars and beyond. So when we really think of technology, we think of seamless, we are thinking of the 7 modes of transportation, right? From bike, from ped, to rail, to roads, to airport, to space, to transit. That's amazing. And the port, the maritime port of Brownsville, which is also growing. So that's a lot of complexity. And complexity requires cool tools to use, right? Don't put the burden on one person. Spread the resources and use your resources in a smart, efficient way, right? So I'd like to talk about the tools in the toolbox because we have a $300 million capital improvement program over a 5-year period. That is the largest capital improvement program in the history of the city of Brownsville, okay? What does that take? People like Alan Gard, who's the CFO and good finance department, to really see we've started restructuring our debt since 2019. So to get us there, I'm gonna tell you right now, as a city manager, I talked to many city managers in the state of Texas. The city of Austin has a $33 million deficit that they're facing. The city of San Marcos has a $5 million deficit. The city of San Antonio has a $15 million deficit. The city of Brownsville has no deficit, okay? And that's very important. And that's very important, guys. And this doesn't come by itself. And it becomes with strategy and with using the different pots that we have efficiently, effectively, so we can continue growing the city and using those grants, right? Leveraging the MPO, having staff that knows how to work all the different types of funding sources. And the state legislator almost capped with this last legislative session that we just finished, they almost capped the ability of a city to effectively use their certificates of obligation, bond for projects. Because nobody has it just $150 million in my pocketbook, right? What we do is we issue bonds at a lower rate, 4% or less, and that helps us build our roads, and then we pay it off over 20, 30 years, right? That's how much of the new construction gets built. And so they were gonna cap us to no more than 20%. And that wouldn't have allowed us to do anything, really. Luckily, we fought that legislation, but what we're seeing more and more is that you all need to really get involved to see what our representatives are doing that impact cities. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones who can be very innovative with money and resources. The county, it's difficult, right? As you get bigger, it's harder, but cities have different tools that they can use, which we use a lot with. We have transportation impact fees, is what we're talking about now, the capital recovery fee. But also, if sometimes developers do want to improve a certain traffic light, and will give to that contribution. And also TxDOT, right, leveraging all the money. And also our EDCs, right? So our GBIC, our Greater Brownsville Center Corporation, and our Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, if they feel like you have GBIC starting their new business park, they're going to leverage some of their money to build out some of the infrastructure to build build out the park, which is great because now we'll have new property tax from industrial commercial development that help us pay for a lot of the services that we need or the maintenance that we need. Because remember, this doesn't include maintenance. The maintenance has a whole other price tag, right, of those potholes that we see throughout the city. But we're in a good place. And so we just continue to, everyone gives a little bit, right, where it's not on one entity, and then through that and through really with a good strategy, we can continue to grow really well and not sprawl out, because development's also important. You're going to be involved in the downtown master plan. Make sure that you go to the meetings when we launch it this summer. Go to the meetings, give your input. We're also going to have our first housing plan ever for the city of Brownsville, and that's going to launch. We have Daniel L. Where are you? He's our new planning and redevelopment director. Say hi, Daniel. Bilingual. And Daniel has experience from San Antonio, Fort Worth. So we're bringing in experience to do our first housing plan. And the housing plan not only looks at affordable housing, it'll look at market rate housing, dorms, smaller homes, a diversity of homes that we can look at. And then the big plan, the mother of all plans, will be our comprehensive plan. And that is our long-term strategy of how we want to grow when we look at the city. And so I'm going to pass the baton to Joel. Joel Garza, he's our director of multimodal transportation, has a lot of experience with the RGV and PO, and then leveraging the funds that we have effectively to really keep growing our city and also ensure that we have a good quality city that we can be proud of and for our kids as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen, and good morning. As Helen mentioned, we've been working with this for the past 2 years, 18 months specifically with the developers and the stakeholders. So what does this do? This funds certain infrastructure expansion projects. What does that mean? It's new roadways that will traverse the cities as development comes in. Intersection improvement, something that I know Helen mentioned, the synchronizations of roadways. We want to make sure that folks can travel smoothly. And then roadway expansions. And so one of the examples we gave City Commission was Dana Road. It is currently 2 lanes, and so that is one of the needs to expand into 4 lanes. So in this process, we developed a zones, and so in Texas Chapter 395 of the Texas Administrative Code requires that money that is collected stays within a certain zone of no more than 6 miles. And so that is intended to make sure that if a development is being built by the Alton-Lore area, that money stays within the region and doesn't get transferred to another zone. And so here we show the roadways that are being widened, meaning that they're adding a lane, a left turning lane. And this is just some examples of those: Minnesota Road, Duckberry, McDavid, Morrison, yes. And the new roadways, based on the mobility plan that we did a few years ago, we identified as we grow what new roadways are needed to make sure we keep up with demand and the capacity that the new developers are bringing in. And so we have Rigo Road, Roberta, Mayors. I know one of the ones that is critically needed where the expressway and the flea market is, there's a new Jeep dealership that's coming in on the corner. So that roadway eventually will be Pineda Road, and so we'll connect I-69 all the way to Paredes. So that is something that's very needed between Alton-Lore and 511. There is no east to west connection. And so how is it determined? It's based on the development. And so if a developer comes in and is building a hotel or a retail, a commercial office space, it is based on a formula of how their impact will be to our roadway. And then once and I think that's in the next slide, right? The city uses the program of Acela, which is her middle name, Elena's middle name. Folks will apply into the software. It would calculate more or less what the fee may be, depending on if it's residential, if it's housing, if it's apartments, and then that will wait until you actually get the permit out. And so once the permit is issued, we will collect that fee. Once that fee is collected, it would be going into that 19 zones or 19 accounts. And so at that time is when the city will use those funds to make improvements in those roadways that were identified in the previous slides. And so online, and I'll make sure we share this with Esme, so you share with your members. We do have a resource page to make sure that developers and the community is aware of what we've done in the last 2 years. It also shows the calculator fee. We wanted to provide something that the public and the developers can use to calculate more or less what that fee would look like. And so it has pull-down menus, and so you can more or less guesstimate what that fee might look like if you bring in a Costco or if there's an apartment complex, for example. And then making sure that we're transparent. As mentioned, we worked with a board or a committee, the Capital Improvement Board, made up of realtors, developers, to make sure that this program is something that them as a developer we'd be willing to work with. And so, given that transparency, online you're going to see the different zones, and so you can click the different zones on a map, and it will tell you how much we've collected and then what projects we'll be using the money towards. Currently it shows 0. We haven't collected anything, but eventually as the permits come in and the collection starts, then this will reflect that. Exemptions, we wanted to make sure that this doesn't deter certain businesses or certain areas of the city. So for example, the downtown, we wanted to make sure that certain exemptions that where a developer comes in, either that's providing low income housing, either for rental, affordable ownership, exemptions for BISD projects, for example, in downtown, and then partially completed subdivisions, and then mixed-use development. Mixed-use developments where you have retail and residential in the same building, and so we want to make sure we bring more of that, and so the city is willing to waive the fee to make sure that that does happen. And then in summary, what is the CRF, the capital recovery fee, is just another tool in a toolbox to make sure that as we grow, we're able to meet the demand of our growth. It funds our ecosystem. We went over example projects. Sorry. It is based on a service cost unit methodology and applied during the development process. The transparency, that we will provide that website so you can take a look at what we've done and we'll continue to do. And then the waivers and exemptions to development. And then with that, I'll give it to Deloro.
Good morning, everyone. I do want to touch a little bit more on the CRF, just to give you a little bit of a broader recap, right? Because a lot of the times we get asked, well, what do our tax dollars do then, right? And how does the capital recovery fee take the burden off the taxpayer, right? As Helen mentioned, it's only 10%, it's a small portion, but that small fee goes a long ways. As you see, we have a lot of need in our city, and I'll go through over a little bit about the need that we have in our city and how important this capital recovery fee is. Being with the city for 23 years, believe me, every street in this city, I've gotten a request to get widened, to get fixed. I think a really common one and a good example that I'd like to use for our capital recovery fee and how it could help Many of y'all know Stillman Road. Many of y'all know Dennett Road. Those two areas were heavily developed in the last 20 years. Dennett Road in particular. Dennett Road, it's a 2-lane road, rural section road. Like many of our other streets, Mackenzie, there's Coffeeport Road is one of those that could be used as a great example of a capital recovery fee as well. But these are areas that had we had a capital recovery fee, now that they're fully developed, Dennett Road, there's literally maybe 20 to 25 acres left in this well over 1,000-acre area that's left for development. All fully built out with single-family homes, some multi-family apartment complexes, but yet, since we did not have this fee in place, now the taxpayers have that burden of widening that road. And with this new fee structure, all of these areas, these 19 areas, will have small little pots of money that will help offset these improvements. Many times when we get rezonings, when we get new projects coming in, our commissioners, the first thing they ask is, how are they handling traffic? What are they doing for widening the roads? Well, we didn't have a response back then because most developers would not have, we would kill the project if we put that burden 100% on them, right? So now this fee helps us offset those costs. Another question that we get asked a lot is, how do we select what roads are needed? Not only for our city maintenance projects, but for this capital recovery fee, right? For our city projects, it's really important. I can tell you, well, actually, I'm going to get ahead, right? The following slide will show the burden that we've had, and last year we presented, basically the city has roughly about 800 miles, 650, probably closer to 700 now that we maintain by ourselves to the city, your taxpayer dollars. Your taxpayer dollars is going to be a big key word, because that's one of the things that we're looking to launch a campaign of all the work that we're doing with your tax dollars. And actually one of our members here in the audience told me, he's like, you should just put a sign that says your tax dollars at work, because really everything y'all are doing in the community, Dodo, is noticeable. People are seeing it, and you need to make sure that people know that it's our tax dollars doing this. So it's really important to capitalize that. The selection and prioritizing of streets, I won't read through the items, but I think really the most important one to me as an engineer is the pavement condition, right? We have to have some criteria as to why we select a road. And the condition of the road, it's very easy when you're in Brownsville. More than 40% of our roads need some type of maintenance. Okay, so when they tell me how do you select roads, it's really complex. Aside from the things that you see here on the list, the most important one is maximizing the use of our tax dollars. One of the things that we used to do before was make sure we do a street everywhere. We weren't very impactful. We would do one street on the north side of town, one street on the south side of town, one street on the west side, one street on the east side, one street in between, and it was never noticeable. It didn't have an impact. Our resources for mobilizing that equipment was a lot. So one of the things that we're doing now is focusing on areas to revitalize. We go into a neighborhood, do everything in the neighborhood. While we're there, let's go fix all the streets, take care of sidewalks. By the way, this is the first year that we actually have a dedicated fund for sidewalk improvements and alleys. We've historically, the alley repairs and sidewalk repairs were basically drawn out of other accounts that we had within the Public Works Department to address those needs. And having that has really helped us expand our plan and be more effective with our tax dollars so that we can maximize the impact we have in areas. One of the things that we'll also talk about is the major corridors, but going back to the prioritizing of the roads, when we completed these studies back in 1990, or it was 2013, sorry, and 2020 was the most recent one, we realized that even though we were not investing the amount of money that, according to a study, we were required, or we were told that we would have to invest at least $10 million a year on our roads to maintain status quo. And we were not, from 2013 to 2020, we didn't have $10 million a year for our roadways. And we still maintained the same level of service and the same condition, but a lot of that happened because we chose methods that were more cost effective, maybe not the right improvement that the road needed, but it was enough to at least get the road to a drivable surface. Very similar to what we're doing on Old Dallas right now. Old Dallas, many of you know that road needs a lot of work. We have it in our CIP project, but we know it's not going to happen in the next 12 months. So we went in there and repaired a portion of it to help offset, the condition of the road for the time being while we get that construction going. So that condition index really helps us determine what roads do we want to do next. All of this criteria that you see here was utilized when the capital recovery fee went through their assessment and decided what roads need to get widened, what intersections need to get improved, and that's based on some madness and engineering, on creativity, right, to make the tax dollars go as far as possible. This next slide talks about the need that we have. Basically, and this, by the way, is from 2020. These estimates are from 2020. So most of you that are in construction are very well aware that after COVID and the recent changes that we've had in the industry, our prices have gone up by well over 30% by now. This report here, from green to the two dark green ones, are probably the streets that need the least or amount of maintenance that requires the least cost. As you get down to the yellow and the peach color, those are streets that we would require to do some type of repaving or repairing the asphalt, the driveway surface, and anything below that is roads that need full reconstruction. As you can see, the cost difference when you see this is not it's pretty significant, but it's not as significant once you add the utilities to it. The utilities is a big cost that's not included in here, so that makes a huge difference. If y'all have any questions from this point forward, feel free to ask at any time. Questions regarding the capital recovery fee, I will take advantage and also give you a quick update of the roads that we have under construction as well. But if you all have any questions that are very, very detailed, feel free to ask myself. We got a couple of members of our public works team here that'll be glad to answer any questions. As far as construction projects that we have ongoing right now, we do have Old Highway 77 that's under construction with our capital improvement money. That project is probably about 20 to 25% complete. Like any construction project, we have a lot of challenges with traffic control. There's a lot of unknown issues. This road hadn't been paved in well over 50 years. The conditions of Old Highway 77, many of y'all know the conditions it was in. Honestly, when I was approached to reconstruct Old Highway 77 about 3 years ago, I thought this is going to be really challenging. I don't think the city's going to take on a project of this size. Historically, we shied away from taking on those big, large, difficult projects. So for me, it was really exciting to have the support to take on a project like this. And now that we're doing it, we get to deal with the challenges, right? Sometimes we have unforeseen road closures. We have utilities that appear out of nowhere. I don't know who installed them, but they're there, and we find them. We tend to find them pretty frequent. Right now, we're doing a repair on the storm drain line, the main ditch that crosses under Old Highway 77 right by the Pollo Palenque, near the Taco Palenque. We had a question, actually, one of our developers reached out and he's like, hey Doro, while y'all are here, why don't you just cover the ditch and connect the road, Old Highway 77 to McAllen Road? I was like, you know what? Believe it or not, it's in our CIP for long-term planning. Not right now, we got to finish one road at a time, but a lot of Old Highway 77 construction, it's a project that I'm really hopeful that we complete by October 2026, which is our completion date. Right now, everything's been going to schedule. We have started a little bit slow, but the utility work, as you all have seen on International, it takes the longest, right? On International, we had a lot of calls. This project feels like it's eternal. It was large storm sewer project, and that's one of those projects with collaboration. When International, when they started, was only going to be a roadway improvement, 16-month project. With conversations with TxDOT, they added the storm drainage. Many of you all that are from here know International, most of the side streets would hold water. Hopefully after this, they won't hold water as long or as much, but it's a large, literally when I saw the pipe out there, I was like in shock that TxDOT stepped up to the plate and provided that for us, because that was a huge improvement for that area. And that's from the expressway all the way to Porter High School. So I mean, it's a long stretch of storm sewer improvement. That roadway itself, like Old Highway 77, are long construction projects that slowly we're getting through, and they're a challenge. And we work very close with our contractors to make sure that we don't disturb the public or our citizens, or disturb them the least amount as possible. Our traffic control is challenging, and we ask our drivers to be patient. Along with International, many people have asked, hey, you all talked about 14th Street being done. What's the holdup? Well, it's parallel to International. It's an alternate route for International, so we're going to wait for International to be complete. That way, we don't disturb completely all the traffic flow that we have available through International. The other alternate route is Boca Chica, which is being heavily used. By the way, Boca Chica from Four Corners to the expressway technically is the only modernized, synchronized intersection or corridor that we have in Brownsville right now. Many of our other corridors are synchronized, but with older technology, and that's why we have that gap that we have to fill, and we're working very diligently. I think the next year, you will see a significant impact because of projects that we've been planning for the last 2 or 3 years. You'll see significant impacts on Alton Glore, Central Boulevard, and 802. Those are the next corridors that next year you should be seeing some drastic improvements on synchronization. Really quick, some other roadway projects that we're improving and working on is Calvin Street. Calvin it's a lower income area, and we have a ditch that had eroded and washed portion of the roadway out. So we got some funding with CDBG and our CIP and some of our general fund to help fund that project and cover up the ditch, repair it so that we can address the road repairs adequately. We're doing some drainage improvements in Villa Los Pinos, and on Wild Rose is another road that people had been asking for. It's in pretty bad shape, and for the first couple of months you may not be seeing road work. They're going to be in the back working on a ditch, but that road will be soon improved. And our in-house team, we talk about the mill and overlay program. I'm really proud of them. I mean, I was director of public works for almost about 1.5 years, and we worked really hard on developing our mill and overlay program and taking on larger projects. Like I mentioned, we have roughly about 650 to 700 miles. They're paving in-house roughly between 15 to 30 miles, depending on how much funding we have. We typically operate with $2 to $4 million, and the difference is, if we were to contract that out, we would probably do about maybe 50%, realistically more like 40% of those roads. On an average, we're doing about 45 to 60 roads. It's hard to visualize the miles. The number of roads is a little bit easier. We have roughly about like 1,800 roads in our city, like road names in our city. So it gives you an idea of how much we're doing. It's a very small number, but we're getting there. And a lot of this work is being done in-house. That pretty much concludes my update. Go ahead.
How about
Price Road. So Price Road was when I started a public works team. I wanted them to do Price Road, and they're like, "Sir, we don't have the manpower to do it." I was like, "We have 170 employees at Public Works. What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, but our branch is only 30. We don't have the bandwidth. We need traffic control." This is Price Road from the expressway to Paredes Line Road. It took us about 8 months of getting the team confidence built up to take on the larger projects. Price Road, by the time we got ready to do it, by the time we felt, or the team felt comfortable to take on that project, TxDOT decides to award a contract to overlay Paredes Line Road. The same process that we were gonna do on Price Road, they decide to do Paredes Line Road. They finished this project in about a little bit under 4 weeks. And our team just really felt the pressure, like we're gonna have to meet that expectation. And I was like, hey, there's only one way to find out. Let's work together. We got the team literally put their game plan together. I let them do it 100% on their own. I'll take credit for the organization of bringing them together. The rest was really empowering them to work together as a team, and we had a total of about 105 or so employees that worked on that project, from our traffic team who provided the traffic control, from our greens team who provided mowing and maintenance to get ready for the project, from our hotshot team who went in there and assisted with the sweeping of the roadways while they were doing the milling and removal. Our street patching team assisted with doing spot repairs. And then, of course, our drainage team, can't forget my drainage team, they went in there and did some spot repairs and utility repairs that were needed because we ran into some issues while we were doing that road. And the biggest accomplishment, that it was completed in 8 days. They really So with a year later, with American Public Works Association, we nominate projects. Most of the projects that are selected for awards are very large projects. Usually the projects that our public works teams are smaller maintenance projects, but this particular project received a state award for the project of the year because of the collaboration that the team had. The number of resources that we pulled together internally to do a road for, I don't recall the budget, but I want to say it was like $500,000 more or less, when our contract price for that road was roughly about 1.6, that I do remember. It was almost $1.5 million had we contracted that road weighed out, because of the complexity of the traffic control and the volume of traffic that's on that road. And completing it in 8 days was, for me, was really surprising. I mean, we had it scheduled for 1 month, and the team really, they just went at it. I mean, for me, it was very moving. For the team, it built up their confidence that 2 weeks later, they went on and did Old Port Isabel Road, and they're like, we're done. And I was like, give us, and it scales to bigger projects, right? This year, we're gonna do in-house Central Avenue from Boca Chica all the way to South Padre Island Highway. Yeah, so that's a huge road. For our team to just tell me, hey, we want to do this road, I was like, all right, y'all be ready. Let's take it. We provide the support that they need and the resources that they need. And, like I said, getting your tax dollars to work is what we're doing. Thank you all for the presentation today. If you all have any questions, feel free to ask away.